Hello, sports fans. My name is Mark Mortier from Yesterday Sports. You're about to jump into another thrilling sports history moment. But first, let's dive into today's sponsor, just in time for the holiday season. Introducing Art of Words, the brainchild of word artist Dan Duffy from Philadelphia. Dan meticulously crafts stunning images by hand writing relevant words from some of the greatest sports moments in time. These unique, budget-friendly illustrations are the perfect gift, sparking cherished memories and capturing hearts. Choose from city skylines, sports, history, and musicians to find a piece for everyone. And here's the exciting part. For that sports fanatic in your life, gift them a piece of their favorite team or player's history. Art of Words tells a compelling story. Explore collegiate stadiums, each meticulously crafted with every football victory etched in words. Or venture into baseball stadiums, handwritten with every player from the team's illustrious history. Don't wait. Order a print today for yourself and your loved ones this holiday season. Transform your wall into a gallery of captivating art and surprise your family and friends with a print of their own. Use code SHN15 at artofwords.com for a 15% discount on your order in November and December. Visit Art of Words, where words magically transform into stunning art, evoking cherished memories and touching the hearts of those you care about. Again, use the code SHN15 for 15% off at artofwords.com.
All right, welcome back to episode number 2 of One Guy with Mike, Dingers and Dunks. This week with the 8 legends of the Negro League Baseball that are in MLB The Show 23. This is going to be episode number 2. This is the second part of the previous 4 that we talked about earlier this week when we talked about John Donaldson and Satchel Paige, Jackie Robinson, and Martin Digo. All right. So in this episode, we'll be talking about Hilton Smith, Hank Thompson, Buck O'Neil, and Rube Foster. And then we will do one more episode. I don't think I'll be able to get out this weekend, so it'll probably be out on Monday or Tuesday, most likely to end the month of this with we're going to give an overview of Negro League Baseball and what happened before integration and what happened after integration. So that'll be fun and interesting. I learned a lot doing this, so proceed to learn more as I keep doing the research to provide episodes like this for you guys. And I really appreciate everyone taking the time to come back and listen as well. So this week we are starting off with Hilton Smith. Hilton Smith was born February 27th, 1907 in Gidding, Texas. He began playing baseball with the Austin Black Senators in Austin, Texas, and then he would also play at Prairie View A&M in 1928 and 29 as an outfielder in year 1 and a pitcher in year 2. He made the Deanlets both years as well while he was there, and in 32, Hilton Smith made his major league debut with the Monroe Monarchs in Monroe, Louisiana. He appeared in one game, getting the start. Pitching 5 2/3 innings, he gave up 6 hits, 3 earned runs, with 4 runs scored, struck out 2. He'd play with the Monarchs as they turned into a minor league team for the Kansas City Monarchs. So no stats are provided for his years 33 from 1933 to 1934. In 1935 and 36, he played semi-pro ball with the Bismarck Churchills in Bismarck, North Dakota. He would team up with Satchel Paige, Ted Doubleday Radcliffe, Clint Brewer, to former pitching staff that would win the semi-pro championship in Wichita, Kansas that year in 35. After the 35 season, Page, Radcliffe, and Brewer all left to play elsewhere. Hilton became the ace of that lead of that team and led the 36 team back to the championship game, where he would go on to pitch in 4 games, but in Game 4, where he would pitch in Game 4, but Bismarck lost. Late in 36, he signed with the Kansas City Monarchs. He would play from 37 to 48 with the Monarchs. He was a 6-time All-Star, won the 42 Negro League World Series. Hilton Smith also played in Cuba down in the winter. He played against Bob Feller's All-Stars, Roy Campanella's All-Stars, Dizzy Dean's All-Stars, as he was barnstorming throughout the years as well. He pitched in Venezuela, and he was offered a contract with the Brooklyn Dodgers at age 35, but didn't accept since he felt his time had passed. Even though he just went 7-0 in league play that year as well. During his playing days in KC and barnstorming, he played with Satchel Paige. As I previously said, Satchel is known to pitch. This is also during Satchel's later years, as when they would play, and was known to pitch. So Satchel pitched 3 to 4 innings at first, and then Hilton Smith would come in and pitch the rest. Negro League star Gene Benson stated, "You better get your runs early against Page, because you ain't getting any against Smith." Smith was a good hitter as well, far better than what Page was, so the switch made perfect sense. Smith, over his 12-year career with Kansas City, he compiled a 70 and 39 win-loss ratio win-loss record. He had a 2.88 ERA. He would start 97 games, appeared in 157. He had 61 complete games, 7 shutouts, 11 saves. He had 573 Ks. He had a 5.6 strikeouts per 9 and a 3.11 strikeout to walk ratio. Smith went on to become an educator, coach, and steelworker, and he was an assistant scout for the Cubs. In 2001, he was elected to the Hall of Fame by the Veterans Committee. Up until his death in 1983, he was an advocate for Negro Leagues to be recognized by the Hall of Fame. What's more impressive with Hilton Smith's career is when you compile all of his stats as a pitcher, he would be a top 30 lowest walks per 9, just behind Christy Mathewson. Second place with the lowest hits per 9 at 6.7, just behind Nolan Ryan, who has a 6.6. His whip would be the lowest of all time at a .889. Hilton was 6-1 when he faced off against white all-star teams. It's a pretty impressive streak, and unfortunately never got to see him play in the big leagues or see what he could actually do, even though he did show his dominance when he was barnstorming. Next up, we have Hank Thompson. He was born in 1925 at the age of 17, Hank was signed by the Kansas City Monarchs. He played the infield and outfield. He batted .315, .373, and .415 with 1 dinger, 14 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 41 hits, 6 doubles, and 2 triples in 40 games that first season. After that first season, Hank would go on to fight in World War II. He'd be a gunner during the Battle of the Bulge and was discharged in 46. That winter, he would barnstorm with Satchel Paige's All-Stars, playing against Bob Feller's All-Stars. And in 1947, Hank would play for the Kansas City Monarchs, but would be signed. But in July of 47, he would go on to sign with the St. Louis Browns, becoming the 3rd African-American to play in the majors, behind Jackie Robinson and Larry Doby. On July 17th, he made his debut, and then he would go on to play in 27 games. He would have 78 at-bats in 89 plate appearances. He would have 20 hits, 1 double and 1 triple. He hit 0 dingers. He did drive in 5, but he batted .256. And he had a .341 on-base percentage and a .295 slugging percentage. At the end of the season, he was let go. And Re-signed for the 48 season to play with the Kansas City Monarchs. He would lead the Negro Leagues in games played at 47 that year. He had 50 runs scored. He would have 11 stolen bases. He had 27 walks. He hit .337, .431, .554. He had 5 dingers, 29 RBIs, 59 hits, 13 doubles, and 5 triples that year. After the 48 season, he would sign with the New York Giants while playing in Cuba with Monty Irvin. And the start of the 49 season, he would start in the minor leagues team on the Jersey City Giants. He played half the 49 season with Jersey City before finding a stroke, and then when he started hitting .375, he was called up and he played in 75 games. He had a line of .280, .377, and .444 after he was called up. He had 9 dingers, 34 RBIs. He had 10 doubles and 4 triples. He had 5 stolen bases on 7 attempts. And then from 49 to through 56, he played in the major leagues, all with the New York Giants. In 1941, he played 14 games. In 1951, he did play 14 games with the Minneapolis Millers, who was the AAA team for the Giants at the time. For his 9-year career with the New York Giants, he played in 906 games. He had 781 hits. He had 482 runs scored, 103 doubles. He had 33 triples, 129 home runs, 477 RBIs, 31 stolen bases, and he had a batting line of .267, .373, and .457. He was on the 51 World Series team that lost to the Yankees 4-2, and he was on the 54 New York Giants team that beat Cleveland 4-0. For his entire career, he had a 30.5 WAR as well. On September 30th, 1956 was his last Major League appearance, the same as Jackie Robinson. Hank Thompson was a part of the first... Hank Thompson was a part of a lot of firsts when it comes to African American history in the major leagues. He was when he faced Don Newcomb in April of '49. It was the first time that an African American pitcher and an African American batter had faced each other in the big leagues. When he played the outfield with Mays and Monty Irvin, they became the first all-African American outfield. He was the first African American to appear in both the AL and NL. And in 1947, Hank and Willard Brown appeared in the lineup together for the 47 St. Louis Browns, making the first time since Moses Fleetwood Walker and his brother Weldie Walker in the 19th century to have 2 African Americans in the same lineup. 1947, him and Larry Doby became the first African Americans to play opposite of each other. And in 1950, he set the record for most double plays by a third baseman, which has since broken. So Hank Thompson, not very well known, but did have a big impact, just like the earlier players to be a part of Major League Baseball. So next up, we have Buck O'Neil. Buck O'Neil, a pioneer and ultimate storyteller of the Negro Baseball League. John Buck O'Neil Jr., born 1911 in segregated Florida, where he wasn't able to go to high school while living in Sarasota, Florida. So he went and worked at the celery fields, and then moved to Jacksonville, where he finished high school and studied 2 years of college at Edward Watery College. He would start off barnstorming in '34, playing in semi-pro and interracial games. '37, he signed with the Memphis Red Sox in the Negro American League. He played 1 year before having his contract purchased by Kansas City Monarchs. 1938, he started his career with Kansas City, playing from 38 to 43. He made 2 All-Star games. He led the Negro League Baseball League in 38 in walks. 40, he led the league in doubles and RBIs. And in 44, he joined the Navy for World War II. From 44 to 45, he served in the Navy, working in the construction battalion. After World War II, he played in the Cuban Winter League, and this is where stats become conflicted. In 46, he is noted by some historians with a .353 batting average, while BaseballReference.com says he only batted .285 in 47. .350 in 1940 or in 46. In 1947, it stated that he batted .350, while BaseballReference.com states that he only batted .286. Then after the 51, then after 1951, they don't even count his stats for some games on BaseballReference.com. His stats only go till 48. BaseballReference.com shows O'Neil to have a career average of 267 or 260, 12 dingers, and 342 hits. So, and that included his time in Memphis. O'Neil would be a player manager of the Kansas City Monarchs from 48 to 55, when he would soon retire in 55. After retirement, he became a scout for the Cubs, where he scouted Lou Brock and got him to sign to the Cubs, only to see him traded in the most lopsided trades of Cubs history to the rival Cardinals. Cards got a slumping Brock, Jack Spring, and Paul Toth. Meanwhile, the Cubs got Ernie Bergoglio, Doug Clemens, and Bobby Shantz. Bergoglio ended up not replicating his previous season. Doug Clemens ended up being out of baseball shortly, and so did Bobby Shantz. Buck also got Elston Howard into the majors with the Yankees, as he was a very pro Elston Howard advocate since he had played with him. In 1962, as part of the College of Coaches, O'Neil was named as a coach for the Cubs, becoming the first African-American coach. But he was never able to actually coach a game or be on the baselines. And he was also excluded from being a manager at any time of the College of Coaches. The College of Coaches was where just a quick recap, I've done a whole podcast on it, is College of Coaches is where the Cubs had the brainiac idea of, let's rotate coaches throughout the majors and the minor leagues every 2 to 3 weeks, because that would give more continuity instead of actually just going to find a manager. After 65, he continued to be a scout for the Cubs until 88, when he moved to the Kansas City Royals and became the Midwest Scout of the Year. But O'Neil gained more stature in 1994 when he appeared on the Ken Burns PBS documentary of baseball. That's when he really took off. But in 1990, he started to lead efforts to establish a Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri, and he served as its honorary board chairman until his death in 2006. O'Neil received numerous honorary awards and awards after life. And the list includes, in 96, he was given an honorary doctorate of business administration for the University of Missouri, Kansas City. 2002, he was inducted to the Baseball Scouts Hall of Fame in St. Louis, Missouri. In 2006, he was the oldest player to bat in a professional game, walking twice intentionally in consecutive half innings, as he was traded between the Kansas City T-Bones and the Fargo Moorhead Redbirds. He also was given the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award in 2006 as well. In 2007, there was an honorary seat at Kauffman. He was given an honorary seat at Kauffman Stadium. In 2007, the Beacon of Life Award was named after him. In 2007, Buck O'Neil Lifetime Achievement Award named after him by the Hall of Fame as well. In 2008, there's a life-size statue of him in Kansas City. In 2021, voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame finally. And then in 2022, he was finally inducted as a pioneer and executive of the Negro League baseball. And Buck O'Neil is probably one of the best storytellers of Negro League baseball. Now we come to Rube Foster, the man that created the Negro National League, the man with probably the greatest impact on Negro League baseball. He was born in 1879. He grew up in the Excuse me. Sorry, I had to sneeze for a second. He grew up in the Methodist Church, as his dad was a preacher and a former slave turned sharecropper. He would carry his religion with him all through life. And in 1897, after the Supreme Court upheld the separate but equal policies of the time that led to Jim Crow laws, Foster started playing baseball in Texas, first with the Austin Reds of Tilston College. This team happened to be affiliated with the church where Foster's dad was an elder. 1898, he joined the Waco Yellow Jackets, where stories began to circulate about Foster. One of the tales, he pitched 11 straight days, pitching every day a scoreless game. After playing in Texas, Rube, he would bounce around the South playing. In 1902, Frank Leland of the Chicago Union found Foster in Hot Springs, Arkansas, where he worked in a restaurant and pitched to Connie Mack's catchers in his spare time. Foster joined the Union but didn't play well, so he decided to go play semi-pro ball in Michigan. After that season ended, he went to play for Cuba, for the Cuban X-Giants, a team on the East, a premier team on the East Coast. He played one season, winning a title, and then hopping over to the Philadelphia Giants for more money. He played there from 04 to 06, winning 3 more city titles. It seemed during this time that he became more wide-known in baseball circles. He also earned the nickname Rube during this time as well. And some people just discredit how, but legend has it is he beat Rube Waddle. And so Foster became the, in parentheses, colored Rube. During this time, legend is also Rube Foster showed Chrissy Mathewson how to pitch the screwball. That the manager of the Giants, John McGraw, came to Rube Foster and asked him to show Mathewson how to throw the fadeaway pitch, as they used to call it back then, and when it was actually a screwball. Again, some doubt this, but there is one thing for sure that did agree upon. If Rube Foster had been white at the time, he would have been the greatest pitcher to play in the American League or National League. He had a repertoire that included a curveball, screwball, and a fastball that fluttered away from the hitter. At one point in 1905, Rube is stated to win 51 out of 55 games, but not all records can be found. But what can be found is that he was 25-3. 1906, after winning third straight city championship with Philadelphia, he would write an essay for Sol White's History of Colored Baseball, and talked about how to pitch, and he gave the 3 principles: good control, pitch certain pitches, and where to pitch them, and the more game experience, the more games you play, the more experience you should have. So you should basically keep learning from your mistakes and continue to learn throughout the game. In 1907, Foster and his teammates from Philly would sign contracts for more money to play for the Leland Giants in Chicago. He played and managed, where they went 110-10 his first year, and the team would beat a Major League All-Star team as well. Foster won 2 of 3 games in the series. From 1908 to 1910, Foster played and managed, and he would pitch, play first, and outfield. His teams would win in 1907, tie with Philly in 1908, and 1909. He broke his leg in July, but then came back in October of that year to face the Chicago Cubs in an exhibition series, where he pitched in Game 2 and gave up 2 runs, but the Cubs, and he pitched in 8 innings that game as well, giving up 2 runs, but the Cubs came back in the 9th to win 6-5. In 1910, Foster wrestled legal control away from Frank Leland and took over ownership of the team. 1910, he barnstormed throughout the country and put together the best team ever, and they would go 123-6. Foster would go 13-2 as a pitcher. In 1911, he sold 50% ownership of the team to John Scolarity, son-in-law to Charles Comiskey. That way, Foster's team could play at Southside Park, which is now called Scolarity Park. And the reason why they wanted to play at Southside Park is because the White Sox had just moved to Comiskey, and they needed a regular field to play at. So Foster changed the team name from to the Chicago American Giants, and they would win 4 straight Western Black Baseball Championship, losing the national championship in 1913 to the Lincoln Giants. In 1915, the American Giants and the Indianapolis ABCs started a rivalry that would last until 1917. 1917, Foster lost numerous players to the war, but continued to dominate as they went 82-11. In 1918, he only became a manager at that time and no longer played. During the time of 1913 and 1917, Foster had his teams playing all over the country. Some media in Chicago said his teams made the White Sox look like bush leagues. After the war, Foster and Scolarity expanded the seating, but due to civil unrest in Chicago, the team had to play most of its games on the road. After the 1919 season, Foster would say, "This is the last time I try to interest colored club owners to get together and work and begin working on a working basis." So on February 13th, 1920, Foster organized a meeting with 7 owners of black clubs to begin a league that resembled the white-only major league. Teams included the Chicago American Giants, the Detroit Stars, the Cuban Stars, the KC Monarchs, the St. Louis Giants, the Indianapolis ABCs, the Chicago Giants, and the Dayton Marcos. They agreed during the convention. They agreed to a league constitution, bylaws, and appointed Foster as president. And the league's motto was, "We are the ship, all else is the sea." The genius is also that Foster understood that the league needed a competitive balance in order for the league to survive. So even though he had the best team in the out of all of the teams there, he relinquished some of his top players from his team. But that didn't stop the Chicago American Giants from winning 3 straight titles before KC finally won one for the first time in 1923. At this point, Foster was starting to face criticism on how he ran the league, with some saying he ran it like a dictatorship. But during this time, the league expanded teams and players' salaries also rose. It was also the league also was making money at the time too. So apparently his dictatorship, in quotations, was working well. So in 1924, the league had their first World Series. It was between the Kansas City Monarchs and Hilldale. Foster planned the entire thing, and this put him in the category of Johnson and Judge Landis at the time. But unfortunately, this would be Foster's high. Like, this is the ultimate peak. Because in 1925, while in Indianapolis, he was found unconscious due to a gas leak in his hotel room. He survived, but mentally he became delusional and irritable. And he also became hostile and not easy to work with. So September 8th, 1926, he was declared mentally irresponsible and confined to an Illinois State Institute, where he spent 4 years until his death in December of 1930. The impact of Foster being removed from the league in 1926 wasn't felt until 1931 when the league finally folded. In 1981, Foster was finally inducted in the Cooperstown Hall of Fame as a pioneer of an executive for the Negro Leagues. He also had a stamp made of him by the U.S. Postal Service. He is inducted into the Chicagoland Sports Hall of Fame, and he was featured on a $5 gold half-eagle coin as well. In 1922, in this $5 half-eagle coin commemorated the centennial of the Negro Leagues. Foster's dream of a thriving league for the African American came to finally fruition in the mid-1930s with the second coming of the league, and it would last until 1960. And then that's the 8 legends currently announced for MLB The Show 23. I hope you enjoyed listening about the history of the men that were pioneers, players, and definitely a huge impact to the game of baseball. Well, I will be doing, like I said, I'll be doing one more part. It will come out next week, which will include players not talked about here, and the leagues and where they started, and to provide, like I said, we'll talk about talk about how they made money back then as they had a barnstorm and play. As always, thanks for listening to One Guy with a Mic, Dingers and Dunks. And then please drop me a follow, and ring that bell and download the episode. And I will catch you all next time.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by to listen to another episode here on the Sports History Network. Our podcasters are passionate about uncovering and sharing sports stories from yesteryear. And if you didn't know it already, we have over 30 shows across the network covering all sorts of sports history topics. In fact, here's a glimpse into one of our awesome podcasts here on the network.
The Pigskin Tales podcast is all about the lesser-known pro football players. Yes, there are stories about the ones we know, like Brad Tarkenton and Harold Red Grange. But have you ever heard of Ernie Nevers? How about Dave Osborne or even Grady Alderman? These men created their own path to the NFL. How did they do it? Listen to the Pigskin Tales podcast, now streaming on your favorite music platform. Go to pigskintales.com.
How about that? I bet you're super hyped to go listen to that new podcast, right? Well, to learn about this show and all the other podcasts on the network, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Head over there today to find your next favorite sports history podcast.